Desiderio. Desiderio looks like a white skeletal tree that learned how to float. I mean, if his face isn't enough of a red flag, the floating is an extra sign. He targets people who are isolated and chronically ill, specifically the kind who have stopped trusting doctors. And once he's picked you, he floats up close and starts whispering things like, they'll never find your cure. And even if they did, they'd only make you sicker. So, yeah, terrible bedside manner, but effective when you've been sick and alone long enough. Once he's in your head, he moves into your body. He hollows out the victim's abdomen entirely, using the cavity to store medications and grow a fetus-like parasite inside it, one that stays physically connected to the host's organs through a supernatural umbilical cord. So at that point, the victim has lost control of their own body from the inside out. That's when he produces a pair of scissors and cuts the cord. The body splits apart and collapses into a grey husk, while something fairy-like, what's left of the victim, floats out and descends into the ground. He frames this as the cure he promised, so not only does he hollow you out, he bills you for it at the end. The only way to avoid him is to not be his target. Someone isolated, suffering in silence, and convinced no real help exists. Basically, if you're not an average Redditor, you're safe. Fran Keel. Not every Dr. Nowhere character is trying to kill you. Some of them are just tragic, and Fran Keel is about as tragic as it gets. He's a tall, slender man with tan skin, one ear on one side of his head, a nose on the other, and a permanently open abdominal cavity where his stomach should be. He wears blue suspender jeans and lives alone on the edge of the city, far enough from everyone else, like a Discord mod. And because of that isolation, he spends his days pulling medications out of the hole in his stomach and swallowing them, convinced something is deeply wrong with him and that nothing he takes is actually fixing it. He's right, by the way, just not for the reasons he thinks. Desiderio is the thing living inside that cavity, quietly making everything worse while Fran blames his own body for it. Eventually, Fran succumbs to whatever Desiderio was doing inside his body and he becomes a whole that's barely recognizable. Dr. Herring. Picture a tall, lanky figure in a long red trench coat with arms that hang almost to the ground. Now give it a burlap sack for a head, 3 large spikes jutting out of the top of that sack, and surgical tools where its hands should be. That's Dr. Herring, and he is exactly as welcoming as he looks. He's tied to something called the melting bath, and his entire function is to guard it, deciding who gets access and who doesn't. His method of turning people away involves using his surgical tool hands to attack, and he only does so because guarding the bath is his job, not because he enjoys it. What's actually inside the melting bath is something nobody has reliably come back to answer, which given everything about the creature guarding it is probably information you don't need. If you somehow find yourself standing in front of it, treat Dr. Herring the way you treat any security guard. Smile, back away slowly, and don't ask what's behind the door. Melting bath. This guy is a 15-foot tall, shadowy figure that proves having a head is entirely optional. It wanders on all fours with spindly limbs and claws that suggest it's probably carnivorous, even though it has no visible mouth. Now, you won't actually stumble into it because you're gonna have to deal with Dr. Herring first. Not that you'd want to get access to it in the first place anyway. Fun fact, it probably has at least 2 versions due to the different skin colors being depicted by the creature. Disease. This one doesn't need to be in the same room as you. It doesn't need to touch you, follow you, or even know your name. All it needs is for you to look at a picture of it to really mess you up. Disease is a massive flesh entity with an abnormally large torso, broad shoulders, and a long neck topped with a small white face. Its eyes are hollowed out, veiny protrusions crawl up its neck, and the flesh around its upper body bunches up in a way that makes it look like it's wearing a turtleneck made out of itself. Its classification is cognitohazard, meaning the image itself is the weapon. Looking at it causes insanity and blindness, and it infiltrates your bloodstream kinda like, well, a disease. While it's very problematic and powerful, the survival tip is pretty simple. If someone sends you a picture of this guy, just don't open it. Except now, you've looked at it by watching this video, so I guess, good luck. The Great Leper. The Great Leper is classified as a Nephilim, which typically implies something celestial and powerful. And then you see it dressed in a white shirt and beige shorts, and you wonder if it's just someone's dad on vacation. But then you see it has no face, no stomach, and the upper side of its left arm is completely gone. Its right hand has been replaced by the exposed jagged remnants of its own radius and ulnar bones. On top of that, its entire body is covered in large, bloody sores and holes from a form of leprosy that is actively eating through it as it walks around. However, the Great Leper doesn't attack at all. Instead, it's just cursed to wander a beautiful garden in a state of perpetual decay, roaming until it's finally done with life. Micheal Tedford. He didn't start out as a monster, but what's left of him now is a tall, pale humanoid with thin, long limbs and dark spots across the torso that are almost certainly not ketchup. where his face should be, there's a blue box with text that reads, "The face you're looking for no longer exists." That's because it doesn't. A breath man took his face and mounted it onto its own body, which apparently broke something in the fabric of reality, just enough for government officials to show up and haul whatever remained of his existence off to an anomaly testing site. So to be clear, the hazard here isn't what Micheal Tedford does to you, it's that something got to him first, wore the evidence, and the universe glitched hard enough that people in lab coats had to get involved. Severe Gargalaphobia. Gargalaphobia is actually the intense and irrational fear of being tickled, according to our AI overlords. So, yeah, it's a true fear. However, everything about this creature screams teratophobia instead. You see, it's a headless humanoid, a neck just ending cleanly at the shoulders and dressed in dark clothing with arms that hang too long and fingers that look like they belong in a Guillermo del Toro movie. Not much is known about this creature, but there's a few bits of clues that we can look at to get to know it a little bit. This clue belongs in a single 1984 report where 2 teenagers were found lifeless in their beds. When the medical reports came back, it revealed that they had punctured lungs, presumably from laughing non-stop until their hearts, well, stopped. Nightmare Man. He used to be Dr. Nowhere's profile picture, which kinda makes him the mascot of the whole universe. But what is he and what does he do exactly? Nightmare Man is a pitch black creature from head to toe, with arms and legs that are genuinely hard to locate against the rest of his body. He manifests inside the dreams of specific individuals, and he derives genuine satisfaction from their fear and suffering. He actively constructs distressing scenarios designed to carry weight into the victim's waking life, meaning the damage doesn't stay in the dream, it follows you out. A newer version of him has since appeared with 2 additions, ears, and a sun with a face near his torso, possibly representing another creature entirely. Why he got an update is unclear, but the fact that he did suggests he's not done yet. His crimes on record are listed as dream trespassing, which is a remarkably calm way to describe breaking into someone's mind every night to manufacture suffering. There's no way to avoid him because the place he operates in is somewhere you go every night whether you want to or not. The best that can be said is, if you see him in a dream, try to remember it isn't real. He'll spend the rest of the night making sure you're not entirely sure about that. Goblin Shark Man. No arms, 2 legs, pitch black body covered in spikes, pale white head and neck, black eyes, 4 noses, 1 in front, 1 on each side, 1 on the back, and 2 mouths, 1 on each side of its head. It looks exactly as chaotic as that sounds. It appears in Silas's dreams, Silas being Dr. Nowhere himself. This is basically his Roman Empire, but when he's asleep. But that's all we have on it. No hazard type or confirmed threat level, not even an explanation why it exists or what it wants. Thing with never-ending legs. The name is pretty much the whole situation. This one is sitting on a mattress, location unknown, possibly a void, with a head that looks like a star made out of pale puffy material and legs that simply do not end. Actually, the creature is big enough to potentially be the location itself, which is the kind of sentence that takes a second to fully land. It's classified as a planet destroyer, and its listed skill is getting infinitely longer and digesting planets with its body, which means the legs aren't just a cosmetic issue. The good news is that it's harmless, at least directly, because if you're living on the planet that it wants to consume, then it's game over. Enemy of Dreams. Where Nightmare Man is pitch black and featureless, the enemy of dreams is his scarier big brother. It has a skull-like face with deep hollow eye sockets that seem to absorb light and a distorted grin stretched wide enough to make you deeply uncomfortable about what it finds funny. Now, a smile like that definitely does not have a clean record. Dream destruction and trespassing, meaning it breaks into your dreams specifically to wreck them. And what's worse is, there's no documented way to avoid this creature. Black Hat Trench. 17.5 feet tall, arms that hang all the way down to its feet, and a large black hat pulled low enough to hide whatever is going on with its face. Black Hat Trench is 89 years old, which raises more questions than answers, and its intentions are not really known, meaning nobody has been able to confirm whether it's dangerous or just very tall and very difficult to make eye contact. The detail worth paying attention to, though, is the nooses. There are multiple ones hanging from its arms and no explanation attached to them. Whether they're decorative, functional, or just a personal aesthetic choice is, well, who's gonna ask him? It's been spotted outside, inside a living room, and in a graveyard, which suggests it gets around, and also that it has no strong feelings about personal boundaries or property lines. If you enjoyed this video, click subscribe, because if you don't, Desiderio is going to be waiting for you under your bed and will only go away if you click subscribe. Anyway, thanks for watching.